Former Dodgers pitcher Trevor Bauer is speaking out after settling a lawsuit with a woman who accused him of sexual assault. Bauer released this video today claiming that he has evidence his accuser set him up and was trying to take his money.
Trevor says everything was completely consensual. He also released these text messages that came out in court indicating that you had planned the whole thing out. So I want to read some of these texts from you to a friend between the two of you before you met Trevor. This one. Next victim, star pitcher for the Dodgers. Okay. Victim is an interesting choice of words. I'm going to allow you a chance to explain yourself. But after you agreed to meet, you asked your friend what you should steal. Your friend answered his money. He says, another one from you to a friend, I'm going to his house Wednesday. I already have my hooks in. You know how I roll. With a screenshot in which you told him, tryouts don't scare me, Bauer. Pick a day and I am there. Here are some more after you and Trevor met up. Net worth is $51 million, to which your friend responds, bitch, you better secure that bag. Your text, need daddy to choke me out, being an absolute whore to try to get in on his $51 million. You say this wasn't a setup. How can you expect anyone to believe that?
Okay, so we got to talk about Trevor Bauer and the MeToo allegations that are totally false against him. And this woman is the new Amber Heard. It is insane. So first, let's talk about the allegations. This is how the media initially covered it.
In court documents obtained by TMZ and shared with us here at Fox 11, Trevor Bauer's accuser says when she met the 30-year-old pitcher at his home in Pasadena, she got much more than rough consensual sex. In her almost 90-page declaration, the 27-year-old woman describes the 2 nights she spent with Dodgers pitcher Trevor Bauer. The first in April, the second in May. The court documents include images of the accuser's injuries, but Fox 11 is not showing the photos or using the name of the accuser at this time, in policy with not identifying potential victims of abuse. Bauer's attorney says these text messages released to Larry Brown Sports show the woman requested the rough encounters. In one text, she writes, never been more turned on in my life. Give me all the pain. The attorney confirming the authenticity of the text to Fox 11, but not speaking on camera Thursday. Neither is the Pasadena Police Department, which is investigating the allegations. So far, Bauer faces no charges. Meantime, Bauer is still on the Dodgers roster. Manager Dave Roberts fielding questions about his status today.
As of now, we're kind of in the middle of letting the commissioner's office, Major League Baseball, handle this. It's in their hands. So our plan is he is going to start on Sunday.
Asked whether Roberts has spoken with Bauer?
I have talked to Trevor.
Can you share anything about that conversation?
I can't. I don't choose to.
So after those allegations came out, remember, these are just allegations, the team suspended Bauer because some of his teammates were against his return to the team under any circumstances. He was actually suspended for 2 years by Major League Baseball over just allegations. Check it out.
Glenn and Lou, this is a landmark decision. It is the longest suspension of its kind, and it is a stunning move by the Major League Baseball commissioner in response to allegations of sexual assault and domestic violence. Some fans are now saying they believe this is far too harsh a punishment for a man they believe is not guilty. The firestorm swirling around Dodgers pitcher Trevor Bauer takes a shocking new turn, with Major League Baseball suspending the right-hander for 2 full seasons without pay, effective immediately. According to reports, the suspension does not include the 99 regular season games Bauer has missed since being placed on administrative leave on July 2nd, 2021. MLB announced this decision following an investigation into domestic violence and sexual assault allegations made against the pitcher. The Dodgers say the organization takes all allegations of this nature very seriously and does not condone or excuse any acts of domestic or sexual violence.
So his accuser, her name is Lindsey Hill. She actually then tried to get a permanent restraining order against Bauer and went to court, and they had a whole hearing about it.
Dodgers pitcher Trevor Bauer came face to face with his accuser in a downtown LA courtroom yesterday. She is trying to get a temporary restraining order against him extended for 5 years. Now, her attorney told the judge what began as consensual sex turned violent.
Bauer's accuser also testified, saying that she had wanted to date him since seeing him in a spring training. In his defense, Bauer's attorney quoted text messages that she says shows the woman didn't complain about the encounter and appeared to be looking forward to seeing him again. Bauer signed a 3-year deal with the Dodgers in February and is currently on administrative leave.
So now, a female judge heard all the facts presented by both sides and dismissed the protective order. She said, we're not going to grant a restraining order. And this was because the woman had asked Bauer to do these things to her. So after the first encounter, she said, hey, I want you to do the same thing even more dramatically, even rougher. Now, obviously, this was to set him up, to make it seem like she was abused. And this was in conflict with her previous testimony that she never asked for this type of stuff. The judge saw right through the sham. This is exactly what happened.
What he produced was text messages showing, forgive me, this isn't a nice way of putting it, but it's literally true, that she asked for it, that she wanted rough sex with him. They had 2 sexual encounters, and that she literally was asking for him to beat her up, to choke her out, to slap her, to punch her. And that is why she was denied the original restraining order, the permanent restraining order. Let me read to you what the judge said when denying the permanent restraining order. The judge said, Ms. Hill's injuries as photographed are terrible. And under most circumstances, merely seeing photographs such as these would serve as a per se condemnation of the perpetrator of such injuries. But the judge went on to say that she believed Hill, quote, had objectively voiced consent to specific acts of rough sex, and the injuries she suffered could be viewed as a natural consequences of the acts to which she consented. Petitioner had and has the right to engage in any kind of sex as a consenting adult that she wants with another consenting adult. She was not ambiguous about wanting rough sex in the party's first encounter and wanting rougher sex in the second encounter, the judge ruled, adding that Mr. Bauer did not pursue the woman or threaten to coerce her into sexual activity. And before I give you the floor, I'm just going to read for the audience those texts, okay, that the judge was looking at that did not make their way around all the publications that condemned Trevor Bauer like that when they saw the pictures of the injuries. Here's number 1. He writes, we only have segments, but he writes to her, yes, ma'am, whatever you want. She writes, butt off when it's time to choke me out. Thanks, you're the best. He writes, you want to go out, huh? She writes, see, that was a game changer. This is clearly after the first interlude. He writes, tell me more. She responds, never been more turned on in my life. Give me all the pain. Roar. Then on page 2, she writes, now that I know what it feels like to wake up from it, though it'll probably feel just as good to wake up from that. She's talking about getting choked out. He writes, God, you just turned me on so much. She writes, mission accomplished then. He writes, now I just want my arm around your neck from behind. She responds, do it harder. And they keep going like this. I mean, I could go on.
Now, after an investigation, some interesting details came out. See, it seems Lindsey Hill had been planning to set up some rich baseball player for all his money for a while. With that said, the DA's office and the police refused to charge Bauer with anything.
Dodgers pitcher Trevor Bauer will not face criminal charges over allegations of sexual assault.
Attorney's office
According to the LA County District Attorney's Office, there was insufficient evidence to prove charges beyond a reasonable doubt. The 27-year-old woman accused Bauer of violently assaulting her during their sexual encounters in Pasadena last year. Bauer has denied any wrongdoing, saying the rough sexual encounters between the pair were consensual.
They also believed he was being set up. Now, one of the craziest facts is that some text messages came out during a civil lawsuit where discovery happens. And these text messages show that Lindsey clearly was trying to set Bauer up for his money. Now, you're going to hear those text messages and you're going to hear her responses to those text messages because she wants you to believe that this actually happened to her. And she knows now that these text messages expose her for the fraud she is. So, as always, you be the judge. Listen to what the text messages say and listen to how she tries to explain it. Let's go to clip 1.
He also released these text messages that came out in court indicating that you had planned the whole thing out. So I want to read some of these texts from you to a friend between the two of you before you met Trevor, this one. Next victim, star pitcher for the Dodgers. Okay. Victim is an interesting choice of words. I'm going to allow you a chance to explain yourself. But after you agreed to meet, You asked your friend what you should steal. Your friend answered his money. He says, another one from you to a friend, I'm going to his house Wednesday. I already have my hooks in. You know how I roll. With a screenshot in which you told him, tryouts don't scare me, Bauer. Pick a day and I am there. Here are some more after you and Trevor met up. Net worth is $51 million, to which your friend responds, bitch, you better secure that bag. Your text, need daddy to choke me out, being an absolute whore to try to get in on his $51 million. You say this wasn't a setup. How can you expect anyone to believe that?
That's a great question. I really appreciate you having me on to even have this conversation. Obviously, there's a lot going on around this, so I really appreciate people who are asking questions about it. The first thing I want to say is, I think that Trevor did this intentionally with the text messages and how he framed this video. There's several things in it that are not correct. And I just want to start out by saying, it's so valid for people to question those text messages. But the root of the problem here is that he is presenting this as one conversation, when in reality he had thousands of messages to choose from, took those, made it look sequential, which it was not. There is no combined screenshot of those things going on one after the other. And as I said last night as well, there's no text message that ever exists. Otherwise he would have, put it out there, combining, anything about a setup through rough sex, finances all in one. Those were handpicked, and they were from multiple different conversations all before we met up. And I think that the video in general doesn't even talk about what actually happened between us two, which is what would have come out during a jury trial. These were all messages that happened before. And then, of course, the video is so valid as well for people to ask questions about. But I do think that video was entirely misleading. He also references the restraining order hearing, which people also have questions about. He says that he was cleared of any wrongdoing, which is actually incorrect. In our civil case, the judge had actually ruled that he had not been cleared of any wrongdoing, and that was a federal court judge.
Now, if that wasn't enough, right, there's another damning piece of evidence. See, after their first encounter, Lindsey was so happy, she actually recorded herself in bed next to Bauer. But remember, she had told police and prosecutors that she was beaten up by Bauer during the encounter. But she forgot she had taken this video right after they had their encounter the next morning. And in that video, there was no bruises. She looks fine. Here she is being confronted with that video that shows she was 100% totally fine with no bruising, and listen to her response to that evidence.
Information like this video, which was taken by Lindsey Hill herself the morning after she claimed she was brutally attacked, emotionally traumatized, and desperate to get away from me. And now we have the metadata, so there can be no dispute. It was taken mere minutes before she left my house on the morning of May 16th, 2021, without my knowledge or consent, of course. In it, you can see her lying in bed next to me while I'm sleeping, smirking at the camera without a care in the world, or any marks on her face. I think it paints a pretty clear picture of what actually happened the evening of May 15th and why the video was originally concealed from us.
Lindsey, I think there are a lot of sexual assault survivors who would say you don't look traumatized there and you don't look beaten. And this is allegedly after you say that he brutally attacked you and you had bruises all over your body. You had bruises all over your face. I don't see any bruises there. And I certainly don't see a woman who's just been traumatized by something horrible.
Again, super valid. I think that I woke up that morning, and the best way to explain that video is I hadn't seen my entire body yet. I had no idea what had happened, considering, I was unconscious for most of it. I had no idea what had happened to my full body.
But if it was that severe, wouldn't you already feel pain? Wouldn't you already have bruises on your face? I mean, you say that he punched you in the face, but where are the bruises?
Yeah, so that's something that has not, been publicly released, or he won't talk about. But over and over again in this process, we have handed him pictures that were taken between 20 and 30 minutes right after that video was taken, of the bruising starting to develop, of the scratching, and it has been time and time again verified through metadata. It was a matter of being in the correct lighting, the spacing to take the right thing. And another difference is, iPhone camera versus a Snapchat recording that. So there is solid bulletproof evidence of those bruising marks, scratches, things that were provided to their team from day one.
So it was bad lighting, That's why we don't see the bruises on her face. That's why you have a Major League Baseball player punching you in the face. You have no bruises, right? That's what she's saying. Now, another crazy part of this is that it shows you how sometimes lawyers can be scumbags. Her lawyers then withheld evidence, and she deleted text messages that she had between her and her friends, likely planning out the scam.
I want to move on here. So Trevor mentioned in his clip that you withheld evidence, more evidence, and later posted on Twitter after being asked if your lawyers were aware that you withheld evidence. He said, "It appears her lawyers had the evidence the entire time." Speaking specifically about the video of her laying in bed next to me with no marks on her face the morning after she claims I brutally attacked her, an email containing that video was sent to her attorney before the domestic violence restraining order hearing in 2021, and it was never turned over to us. Perhaps that's why he insisted on adding his name to the released parties section in the settlement agreement. There was also a 12-day span of texts between Lindsey and two of her closest friends immediately following the incident that were deleted. We asked for them in discovery for the restraining order hearing, and they were not turned over. Why did your lawyers withhold what seems to be very exculpatory evidence for Trevor?
You know what? That's something my lawyers would have to answer, and that's his issue with them. Like I said, there was an email. I provided absolutely everything I had. And a key fact about this that no one does know about is that that video was actually the first thing that I handed over to Pasadena police, and it's on body cam footage. So I did everything to hand over all of that stuff. It was my first time in a legal proceeding, and I did what I was told when I was told to do it.
So now, with all of that, Trevor said, okay, listen, we're just going to settle this and get the hell out of here, right? Because essentially he was blacklisted from the MLB. Now, understand how bad this was for him. He was named one of the top pitchers in baseball. He even won the Cy Young Award, which is baseball's highest award for that year to any pitcher. And he had won that the year before. No baseball team would re-sign a Cy Young winner just 2 years ago. So you know what he had to do? He had to go play overseas in Japan. So he had to settle this case so he can move on with his life and start playing baseball again, even though it would happen to be overseas. So in the settlement, he didn't pay her a dime, he did nothing, and he still said he was going to tell everybody the truth about what happened, but he was going to move on with his life. But somehow, some way, she got an insurance company to pay her $300,000. She was even confronted with that.
So my last question, as part of the settlement, you disclosed that you received $300,000 from an insurance company. How did you con an insurance company into paying you any money? And does that money just go to your lawyers, or does any of it go to you?
Yeah, I wish I could speak more into that, but I am prohibited from talking about that part. So I wish I could go more into detail, but I don't believe I would agree with you on the word con at all. So,
okay.
So I'll go into that more.
Yeah, I mean, Lindsey, I don't like it when men are falsely accused of doing things, and they have their livelihoods taken from them, and it's done by someone who is, speaking out of both sides of their mouth, saying, well, I wish that this had gone to court, because if it did, boy, let me tell you all the evidence that you could be seeing, but now you can't, and also then settled the case. I don't find that to be credible. I will leave you with this. I want you to learn your lesson on pursuing public figures, and I would ask that you stop sliding into my friend Alex Stein's DMs.
So just to be clear, this was all a setup. She planned to get this guy's money and executed that plan. She should be charged and sent to prison as an example to other fraudsters out there. This is why victims are not believed. This woman is the reason why. This is how she looked the morning after, and she says she was brutally beaten by this man, and she has not a mark on her face. She took that video. Now, let me know in the comments, where the hell am I wrong? Because this story is insane. This woman is pure evil. This woman is Amber Heard. The police, the DA, they all agreed this was not serious and didn't press any charges against Bauer because she was obviously lying. Now, does this make you mad? Does this make you upset? Because it does to me. Women like this should face the same penalties as their accusers. This story only incentivizes women like this to continue to lie, to continue to do these types of things. She got $300,000 from an insurance company for what? For setting up a Major League Baseball player and destroying his career to force him to go play in Japan after winning the Cy Young Award? MeToo has gone insane, people. This is Craziness. Now listen, I'm just going to keep it 100% real. This woman should be going to prison, but the reason why she's not in prison is because she's a woman and because in the woke California, they don't want to hold liars accountable for destroying men's careers. If she does it, it's fine, because the whole thing is we want other victims to come forward, even though we know this woman is lying and destroying a man's life, and she did destroy his life. Don't forget, like, share, subscribe. If you want to see this video before it's published on YouTube, don't forget to grab a membership, join me on Locals or Patreon, even join us on Rockfin. These videos are put up there before they're put here on YouTube. I'm just going to say this: facts should matter. And in this case, unfortunately for Trevor Bauer, they mattered too late. But this is why I always say, we don't believe allegations, we believe facts and evidence. And no matter who we're talking about, we need to see all the facts before we make a determination. He was convicted based on the word of this obvious liar. And that, I think, is a tragedy in this story. My name is Lawyer. I'll see you next time. Peace.